Good afternoon, barely, guys. This is Kathy Iconis with QBOchat, and we are going to go through an OnPay deep dive today with Kara and Jessica from OnPay. Super excited. We're going to wait a second for people to join in, come on in, whatever we're calling it. And I you guys know that I love OnPay. I've been using it for myself for a while now. And I think they are a great payroll provider out there. And I kind of equate it to Gusto, but there's a lot of differences on it. And I have done an in-depth comparison between Gusto and OnPay. Some winners, some losers on either side. I'll tell you, OnPay is cheaper. That's a big one. But you'll get a link to that in your update email, after email tomorrow when that goes out. So we got people joining in. They're in here. I'll say if you have any Q&A, please use the Q&A area. I did disable the chat function today, but if you have any questions, pop them in there. If you have anything to say, you can pop it in the Q&A. We will be tracking that throughout the webinar, so you are welcome to use that as much as you like. So let me hand it off to Kara and Jessica. They are both from OnPay and are the smartest payroll people I know. So they will be telling us all gorgeous stuff
about the compliments.
Yeah. Yes, you guys are far more intelligent about this stuff than I will ever be. So go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you for the lovely intro. And I can say in turn, Kathy, you are far more intelligent about QBO and bookkeeping than we will ever be. But we are really glad to be back with an OnPay deep dive. We loved meeting you last week in our intro to OnPay session. This week, we're going to take a deeper look at some of our features to save you and your clients time. I do also want to emphasize what Kathy was mentioning earlier. We want this to be as interactive as possible. Please, as we go along, ask questions in that Q&A section, and we'll be pausing periodically just to check in and see what there is to address. But before we get started, always good to know the people behind the voice, right? My name is Kara. I'm a product consultant for accountants and bookkeepers with OnPay. I am certified through the American Payroll Association, and I love making payroll easier.
And my name is Jessica. I'm a product manager here at OnPay. I've got about a decade of experience in the payroll industry, and I really work with our developers to make sure that your user experience is as optimal as possible, especially when we're talking about QBO and how we integrate with those accounting solutions.
Absolutely. And here is a quick overview of everything that we covered in the initial OnPay demo last week. So last week, we took a look at OnPay's customizable dashboard and the partners program for bookkeepers. We went over how to run payroll in 4 simple steps. We discussed comprehensive HR services and benefits plans to take care of every employee. And we went over quite a bit more. Too much to summarize here, but I just wanted to let you know kind of the context in which we're taking this session.
Yeah, and so today we're going to cover a couple of things. First, we'll talk about a refresher on how your clients can manage employees efficiently, ways that you can view data with our built-in report designer, OnPay's robust integrations, which includes QBO, part of the reason we're here today, and then company administration, as well as automating leave accruals so that your employees and yourself can have the most streamlined experience as possible. And then last but not least, we'll talk about some perks of being an OnPay partner. So let's get started.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jess. So traditionally, when you or your clients hire a new employee, the process has gone a little something like this. You sit that employee down, you have them fill out their W-4, I-9, direct deposit authorization form, and what probably seems like a million other sheets of paper. And then that data is taken, and if your client's super old school, it goes in a filing cabinet for them to pull later when calculating payroll. But more than likely, they're taking that information, typing it all out into a payroll system. They then need to remember to submit a report to the state's new hire agency to remain in compliance. And all of this is on top of training employees, trying to focus attention on getting them settled in. So good news, we give your clients and you more time back in the day by eliminating all of this double entry, taking a lot off your plate by empowering your clients' employees. So right from the outset, your clients can invite employees to self-onboard. And this is going to shift that responsibility onto the employee themselves to enter their demographic information in full, fill out federal and state withholding details, key in their routing and account numbers for direct deposit, and even electronically sign the W-4 and I-9 to boot. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to instantaneously create their profile in OnPay with those saved forms so that come payday, your client has everything they need to get employees paid while also remaining in compliance. Plus, big win here, OnPay also takes care of the new hire reporting to the state agency for your clients as well.
And I'm sure your clients get questions often like this from employees. Did I get paid last week? How many hours of PTO do I have left? I'm applying for a mortgage. How do I download my pay stubs and W-2s? Or I have a new bank account, and how do I change that information with you all? Well, we've got just the thing to get you to help your clients and help their employees get their questions answered. When your clients invite employees to self-onboard, even after their profiles been created, they can invite employees, and it gives employees access to their own information right at their fingertips. This helps prevent questions for your client, for you, for the employees. So let's go more in detail in app. Kara, can you start by showing us what the employee sees when they log into OnPay?
I absolutely can. So I am added as a fake employee of also a fake test account that I have. I've got many test accounts, Buford Consulting. So what I see here when I log in, I have access to any tasks that I am assigned. A perfect example of this is one that you see right here on the dashboard. I would want to review this handbook. I would want to electronically sign it. And then that copy of that electronic signature, it's going to be available for my employer at a later time. They can download that. They're going to receive a notification that I've signed this document. I'm also seeing here in this initial window members of my team. This is something that the employer can choose to hide. I like it though because we're not sharing any confidential information. If I click on a member of my team, I am able to see their business title, business phone number, a bio if they've added one. And then I love this. We have these fun facts, and they're really just employee icebreaker questions. We have this, as we discussed last week, a whole HR section of OnPay. It's at no additional cost. It's a really neat tool. So we can ask fun questions, and I can see the answers that others have provided. Now, from this window, I also am able to see my most recent pay stub and download that if needed. I also can see any and all earnings that I've had with this company. I can see that in an annualized view on a per paycheck basis. Also, check it out, end of the year, or really January, February timeframe. I can come on in, I can download that end of year tax form as well, completely free of charge. And I've got other nifty features too. I can add in my bank account information. I can add in as many accounts as I like, and I'm able to split my net pay over several accounts. I can choose how that split occurs, whether it's a flat dollar amount, whether it's a percentage of net. It's really up to the employee how they want to configure that. And I always feel like, direct deposit can be a little bit tricky on both sides. You want to make sure it's entered in correctly the first time. So put that on the employee to do themselves. And a few other features that we're seeing here as well, the ability to view my existing PTO balance or sick leave or vacation leave balance. And if I need to plan a trip, I can easily initiate a request. Let's give them less than a day's notice. Hey, I'm going to take tomorrow off. But they can add in a note. The employer is going to be notified. They can then approve or deny that request. We have this PTO and leave management option in the HR portal, and ton of other features, files that I've signed, maybe overall company files like the holiday schedule, org chart, and more. All of this is available to employees at no additional cost. Now, I think it would be nice, we'll shift gears a little bit. Let's take a look at OnPay from a partner and employer point of view. I am going to pause my screen share momentarily just to get us back to that main dashboard. So bear with me one moment here. Let me get us back to that starting place. We're going to start from a bookkeeper's point of view. So 3, 2, and 1. You should see that my screen is now updated. This is something that we saw in last week's session. It's that dashboard that's available exclusively to you. Your clients would never see this. It's a way for you to manage all of your clients in one place. This is also where you can go to access your free payroll account for your practice. So let's actually go to companies. If you were attending last week's session, this is where you go to access all of the clients that you're managing through OnPay in one centralized list here. And when you'd like to view a particular company, you just simply click that blue launch button. And the page that we're being redirected to, this is what your clients would see if they were granted access to OnPay. And just as a very quick refresher, just as an orientation as well, what we're seeing here, upper left-hand side, depending on the amount of clients that you bring on board with us, we can always co-brand this screen. We can easily search for different members of my client's team. Have a question, reach a live human, not a robot, open up a chat, give OnPay support team a call, send them an email with any questions. All the reps are US based. All of them are trained on payroll. They're friendly, happy to help you out. But of course, we do have a 24/7 knowledge base as well. And then if you ever need to switch between accounts, you just go in the upper right-hand corner. You can return to your main bookkeeper dashboard. You also can toggle between different companies without necessarily having to log all the way out and log back in again. Now, before we go over reporting tools, before we go over QuickBooks tools, I wanted to highlight some custom fields that you're able to utilize within our platform. If I navigate to company and go to location, department, and position, I'm going to be brought to this window where I am able to create custom fields in each of these categories. Now, OnPay does have default in each of these sections automatically for you. You can replace that name if you're never going to use the default field, and you'll go with maybe what's most popular for location, department, or position. But what's nice is that, especially for clients that have a larger employee count, this is a great way to then, when you go to OnPay's reports, generate reports that are able to be filtered by each of these items. We also have reports that I'll show you today that you are able to auto segment by those respective fields as well. So I highly encourage this. Even if your client doesn't have a large employee count, this can still be really useful. And we are going to see departments, which QBO they call classes, and locations being utilized for OnPay's QuickBooks Online integration. So hang tight, we're going to go over that as well. I do also want to point out too that oftentimes there may be clients that have employees that they are working across multiple departments. OnPay will only allow you to assign one department to an employee at any given time. So I did want to also call your attention to payroll pay items. Each of these types of wage buckets, W-2, 1099 contractor, non-reported or imputed fringe benefits, in each of these areas, we have these custom pay item fields. You can rename them for your purpose. You can designate them as hourly or non-hourly. You can even ask us to add more completely free. I have one person that I work with, one of their clients is a charter school, and they need to be able to track the different classes that the teachers are teaching for grant tracking purposes. So because we're not able to assign that individual to multiple different departments, well, easy enough, we just have a different custom pay item for each of the classes that they teach, keep it as hourly so we can track the hours associated with those. So just different ways that you're able to approach the customization in OnPay. All right, so let's make sure that we're viewing our reports. We're viewing the data that's going to be sent over to QuickBooks Online. To do that, I need to run a payroll. I'm going to go to payroll on the far left-hand side. And because we went over this really in depth last week, I'm going to go over this at a super high level. This first step, I'm just choosing who needs to be paid. So I come in, check, uncheck the different W-2 employees and 1099 contractors as necessary. And then you'll notice what we were just discussing, those positions, locations, and departments, I'm able to see that assignment right here as well. So that's step one. We choose who needs to be paid. Step two, we're going to let OnPay know how much to pay them. Now, I already have this filled out. These hours can be manually entered by you, by your client. We have multiple levels of user access for that purpose. We also offer direct integrations with several time and attendance platforms. Deputy, QuickBooks Time, When I Work. We have a CSV import option. So we give you lots of flexibility in how those hours and wages are being entered in. Then OnPay is going to calculate the taxes. And it takes just a few seconds, even if your client has 100 plus employees. And then we are going to proceed to the fourth and final step, approve. On this window, OnPay tells you the exact day and amount that we're drafting for all the payroll taxes combined, all of the net pay that's being distributed by direct deposit. And then if you recall, employees, they have access to their pay stubs, or they can have access to their pay stubs in that nifty self-service portal. If we were to keep this box checked, that would send an automated email upon approval to employees that have an email in their profile. And the body of the email is going to say, you've been paid effective this date. Here's a link, log into your employee portal if you have access to actually view that pay stub breakdown. So just for security, I want to make sure, rest assured, we aren't sending out actual pay stubs by email. We're just notifying them, hey, there's been some changes in your profile or your portal. Take a look at the pay stub in your portal. All right, so when we are ready to continue, we're just going to hit that big blue approve payroll button, you, your client, whomever. And then once that payroll is approved, OnPay sending the direct deposits out. If they need to pay some people through a pay card, works similar to a reloadable debit card, we can send that via ACH. We also have a download print checks option right from this window. Now, something we're going to touch on very shortly, Jessica's going to kind of lead that portion of the demonstration, but you'll notice at the bottom of my window, I have this green acknowledgement message. That is letting me know that OnPay was able to send over the payroll expenses directly to QuickBooks Online automatically. So we're going to cover that in a little bit more detail. I do want to check in at this juncture, though. Let me just really quickly take a look at the Q&A, see if any questions have been asked. So please let me know anything that I've made more confusing. I'm happy to clarify, or just any questions in general so far. And you know what, Jessica, I don't see any questions yet in that Q&A panel. So I think next we'll take a look at reports, and then we'll take a look at integrations.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. So from here, let me go ahead and exit this window, and I'm going to close this little notification. This is perfect. OnPay automatically will redirect me to the reporting area. So this is a way that you can take a look at the big picture for your clients. Now, a wide variety of reports that are available, some of them, like payroll listing, we have quite a bit of flexibility. I've got the framework of this report that's already been created. But if I go to this gear icon, or flower icon, I heard that recently and I love it. It is a gear icon though. So if I go to this gear icon, I can name that report whatever I'd like it to be. I am able to take the data points under available columns, and I can drag and drop that column header over, reorganize the report, and just really make it my own. What's neat about this as well is any of the column headers that you see with the stacked blue diamonds, that indicates that there's going to be sub columns within that. So wages, I may see, let's say the custom pay item. So I'm not having to choose that individually. I then save that custom report so I can pull it up as many times as I need to. Maybe I need different reports for different departments for my clients, as an example. They have different items that they need to see. Now, having said that, we do have some reports that come predetermined for me with the column headers. I love the Payroll Summary Report. It's one of my favorite reports. Jess, are we allowed to have favorites? Because this is probably my favorite.
It's my favorite too, especially when you're tying out your transactions to QuickBooks. I think it's a fantastic report to use.
It is. Okay, perfect. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. What I like about this report is I have a delineation of the wages. I also can see a breakout of the employee and employer taxes, any deductions and benefits. And then I find this especially useful for this last row. Not only am I able to see the total cost of the payroll, but I'm also able to see the total taxes and direct deposits. And each pay period, OnPay is going to be drafting these amounts from your business bank account. So generally, those amounts in taxes and direct deposit, it should match what we are drafting. So this is a report that you're able to utilize. And what I like about this report too, is I'm still able to customize to an extent. I can choose a very particular date range, which comes in handy, especially for workers' comp reporting, because they've always got wacky policy periods. And those fields that we saw earlier, location, department, position, if I need to, I can filter by that, and immediately that filter is going to apply itself to the report below. Now I'm going to reset this, or actually, let me show you really quickly. This does kind of stick with me between reports. So you'll notice that filter remains intact. The reason I wanted to reset this though, is I wanted to show you that we also have a version of that payroll summary report that will auto segment the data by location, department, and position. So if you're utilizing those custom fields, look at this. I've got administration, Same information I'd see in that payroll summary. I get the payroll cost per department, and then I can easily kind of scroll down like so I don't necessarily have to filter and get that per filtered view. I can just automatically see it broken out this way. Another report that I like, and I may be getting ahead of myself, Jessica, but when we go over the integrations, I just want to show it so I don't forget it. This Geo Summary Report is really useful. The only way to get this report to populate is if you are mapping your chart of accounts from QuickBooks with OnPay, and then we're going to populate this report. So if I didn't map something, an item, then I would see it would say unassigned for a particular line item. So I don't think we're going to really go over troubleshooting today, or I know that we aren't. So I do want to call your attention to this report because I think it's really useful if something isn't mapped, which OnPay will tell you anyways. But it's also a nice customer-facing report. If you are really the one that's driving the setup of the GL, if you're the one that's actually, doing the bookkeeping and helping your client on the QBO side, I think GL Summary is still a really approachable report that you are able to export and send to your client directly.
I totally agree, Kara. I think it's a great report that's underutilized. And I know we're here to talk about QuickBooks Online today, but if you use QuickBooks Desktop for some clients, this report also populates with those as well.
Exactly. Now let's take a look at integrations. Jessica, floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks. So it makes sense in a perfect world to centralize your operations. You want your time and attendance system to talk to your payroll system, and in turn, those expenses flow right into your accounting platform, right? That creates as little work for you guys as possible, and just streamlines your day-to-day operations. So we saw how OnPay can send over the payroll expenses to QuickBooks Online as soon as you hit the approve button. Now let's take it back a step. Kara, we're going to go back into OnPay if you don't mind, and let's talk about that integration in a little more detail. I think that's one of the big reasons we're here today. I love questions. So I know Kara mentioned it earlier. Feel free. QuickBooks is my specialty as it relates to payroll. So feel free to ask me any and everything you can think of on QuickBooks and especially our integration. And I will, if I don't know the answer, I will get the answer for you and follow up after. So the first thing we see here is that we've integrated with a QuickBooks Online account. As I mentioned, we can also integrate with desktop. And this is just showing that we're connected to an account in QuickBooks called Green Valley Sundries. Now, if we added an account in QuickBooks that we needed to populate in OnPay, maybe it's a new wages account or something like that, Kara clicked the refresh button, and that updated our chart of accounts and pulled any new information in from QuickBooks. You may have heard Kara mention the words mapping. We say that a lot. I just want to clarify what we mean by that. So as we go through this integration, what we're going to do is we're going to tell OnPay where the information should go in QuickBooks. And that's essentially what mapping is. We're telling it how to send it over, how much detail to send over, and where we're going to put that information. So for the majority of this integration and all of our GL integrations, the information on the left side is the payroll items or the payroll details and how much that we want to share with QuickBooks. And then on the right-hand side is actually drop-down fields where we've pulled in information from your chart of accounts. So we'll kind of start at the top here. The first option that we have is to sync automatically, and that is what Kara showed us earlier. So that little, as soon as she hit approve, that little what we call snack bar icon went through and said, hey, we're sending the information, and we got a success message. Most companies probably want to set up automatic sync. Reasons I would suggest to turn it off. If Kara wanted to turn it off, she would just uncheck it. If your client has to rerun payroll often, maybe they make a lot of mistakes. It's very easy to delete payroll from OnPay. It's not as easy to delete journal entries from QuickBooks. So you may not want to sync until you're sure the payroll's fully finalized, you're not going to have edits. So maybe you want to turn off that auto sync. And if you do, then you would just navigate to the payroll export section of the integration. This also shows you when things were sent over, but if you missed a pay run for some reason, or you wanted to send something over, you could click the send button here to send it at that time manually. And then when we go back into the integration here, the next thing we're going to see is to sync in summary or in detail. So that's really just how much detail do we want to share with QuickBooks? And we'll show this information in QuickBooks. So I hope it makes a lot more sense. I think it makes more sense when we go into QuickBooks and you guys get a chance to look at it there. But when we send in summary, you're going to get one journal entry for all of the payroll, and then you're going to get a second journal entry for the tax sweep. And so that is kind of summarizing payroll as a whole. It's probably the way that you're most likely getting your information if you're using another payroll provider, or if you're making journal entries manually, you're probably just doing one journal entry for the payroll. So that's really common. Or if you have a ton of employees, like in summary makes really good sense. Now, if you select in detail, we are going to send a journal entry per employee to QuickBooks, as well as what we call the tax sweep and the direct deposit sweep. So you do get those additional transactions. You get a lot more clarity into your QuickBooks, and your QuickBooks is going to reflect more detail that way. You're going to have each employee broken out. That is super helpful if you have a lot of live checks that your employees are handed out, or if your company only runs live checks and doesn't utilize direct deposit. That is super helpful for when you're reconciling. So we will take a look at that in the QuickBooks side shortly. So we'll come back to that. The next item here is just the checking account that we affect. Kara has a lovely webinar checking account so that we can keep this clean and easy to show you guys. And then the next item is direct deposit clearing. So I mentioned that if you sync in detail, and you use direct deposit, then you need to fill out this item. And sometimes we get asked about what this is. Really what we're doing is we're using a liability account as a pass-through account so that we can send all of the direct deposits to one account. And then when we debit your bank account, we're debiting the total direct deposit liability from that liability account. So it always has a zero balance. It's just a pass-through account. And really the reason we do that is so that we are able to match our debits to your bank account to how it comes over in your GL. And that just makes much more simple reconciliation process for you or for your client. So it's just a cleaner way of doing it. And that's why we do it that way. So if your client doesn't have a direct deposit liability account, deposits payable, net payable, just create one. It's just an other liability account, and we always clear it out. There will never be a balance in that account, so you don't have to worry about it. The next item is a tips item. I'm going to skip over it. We have some opportunities. If you have clients with credit card tips, we have multiple ways that we can handle that. We have some articles in our help center for that. If you have questions, happy to answer that. But most clients don't deal with a lot of tips, so I'll skip that section. And the other section Kara is skipping for me is some stuff related to COVID-19 tax credits. So questions on that, I'm happy to answer, but a lot of clients might not have questions on it. So let's skip down to kind of what I call the bones of the integration, the part that matters the most to everyone. So this first tab here that we're looking at is the employer share taxes. So these are expenses to the business. And what we're seeing here on the left-hand side is the payroll item. So this is how it shows in the register in OnPay. And this is the payroll item. And then on the right-hand side, we are assigning that to our chart of accounts item. So this is where you have the opportunity to do as much or as little detail as you want. So currently, Kara has this sending employer Social Security going to a Social Security account. She could just send it all to payroll expenses if she wanted less detail. But here's what I'll tell you is if you want your QuickBooks to kind of look like your reports in OnPay, then I would suggest either a 1-for-1 or a more detailed mapping. The more details you put here and the more accounts that you select, the more details you're going to get in your QuickBooks. So these are just all of our tax expenses. Kara has every single state in her test account, so it's a long list. I won't make her go through all of it, but that's just additional tax types for all of those states. So Kara, if you'll scroll up for me, what we're going to go to is the next section, which we call tax liabilities. So this is one place where OnPay is a little different than most providers. Most providers who pay your taxes for you, like OnPay, don't actually send your liabilities to your GL. So oftentimes I get questions, why do you guys do it? Why do you send over the liabilities? Well, we do like to show a fully balanced transaction, and truly the liabilities were incurred, right? we do show that they were incurred, and that's how we do that here. And then what we do is, you heard me mention the tax sweep, as we call it. We use that tax sweep to empty those liability accounts for anything we pay for you. This is really helpful because there are a few items that we might not pay for you. So if you're in New York and you have disability, that's actually an insurance, but it acts like a tax in our system. So that's something that's paid to a private insurer, and it's not something that OnPay pays on your client's behalf. So we actually do leave that liability in your client's account, so you remember to pay it at the end of the quarter. But for anything that we pay, like the Social Security, the Medicare, your FUTA, your SUTA, all of that, we wipe out those balances, pass them through, and clean out those accounts so you don't have a balance after payroll completes with that tax sweep. The next tab we'll talk about here is deductions. So these are just employee deductions. Again, Kara has literally every deduction in her account. So it's a lot more than probably your client accounts have. And again, you can send these to a liability, or you can also send them to an expense account if you prefer to do a contra expense for your accounting purposes. So you could do that if you wanted to. But we send the information over as the employee deduction, and those items do remain as liabilities in your GL so that you can make those payments for the things we don't make payments on. So the next section here, garnishments, we see that treated as a liability as well. The next section here is imputed pay items. Now, Kara does have this mapped just to an other current liabilities in case she uses it. But one thing I want to mention that I haven't mentioned before, if you have an item that you're not actually using, you can leave it blank. So a lot of these things, maybe your client doesn't do fringe benefits, they don't do third-party sick pay. You can leave these items blank. You don't have, if you don't use it, you don't have to map it. If you do go ahead and use it in the future, we do have a dialog that pops up and says, hey, you need to map this item so that we cover that for you. But a lot of times you can leave this section blank. Kara just chooses to map it here. And then at the bottom of the screen, I just want to mention there's a section called employer contributions. And this is for employer contributions to different deductions. And those are things like, employer match on a 401k, employer contributions on an HSA. We can send over those expense amounts if those programs are programmed into the deductions, and we'll send over those expenses into the GL when it occurs on a per pay period or per employee basis or in summary. It doesn't matter. We'll do it with either. That's just an additional option. If you don't want it to send over, you can leave that blank. So if you scroll up, Kara, let's go on to the next portion that I think most people probably care about this portion the most. It's the wages portion. So as you see the tab, actually scroll up a little, Kara. The tab is called departments right now. So there's two different ways that OnPay can send your wage details into QuickBooks. And we can do that via department, or we can change this and we can send it per pay item. Our default is to send it by department. Kara's going to show us how to change that. So if she goes up to my company and then company preferences down here at the bottom, there is an advanced feature. This is where we hide all the goodies. If you click on this, use pay types on GL, this is going to switch it over so that in our general ledger integration, we are using the pay types and we can map per pay item. So as Kara mentioned earlier with that client she has worked with in the past that uses a lot of pay items that need to go certain accounts, they of course map by pay type. So we send over the wages by pay type. Kara, if you will switch it back to departments for me. I just want to talk a little more about departments before we go back. So we'll just switch it back. It is an instantaneous switch, no harm, no foul if we switch between the two. So if you had like a bonus pay run that is just a one-time bonus per year and you wanted to send everybody's bonus to that, you could switch between the two easily. So in the compensation, you'll see all of these different departments. As Kara mentioned, if the employee works in a department, currently our system does send one department per employee per pay run. So you don't have the opportunity to have multiple employees in those different departments, but we do have some items broken out below those that are common pay items that need to be broken out from employer or from regular employees. So maybe an owner's draw item, a reimbursement item. That allows you to have some pay per pay item mapping, even if you choose to send most of your details in the departments. Kara, if you'll scroll back up for me, we'll go to the last tab here called classes. Now, if you are using QuickBooks, I believe it's QuickBooks Plus Online, or QuickBooks Online Plus or greater, they do allow your clients to have access to classes and locations, QuickBooks locations, and those map to our system as classes are departments for us and locations are locations. So this is really just sending over additional details that allow you to filter your reports differently in QuickBooks and just give you that additional detail. So we'll see that as well in our QuickBooks transactions. So Kara, I know you already sent over the pay run when you completed it. Let's pull up QuickBooks. Let's navigate to our webinar checking account and take a look at what we sent over when we did send that information over earlier. And before I go into this too much, I do see a question popped up. So let me take a look at that.
Yeah, please do. And it looks like this question is asking, you know, there were times when I was using a different payroll provider where the QuickBooks integration maybe was disconnected. You weren't able to see journal entries for payroll for the month. And so kind of asking, just forecasting ahead, any troubleshooting, is there any possibility when I choose to sync it, but the integration won't work? Or has there been instances where they experience missing payroll journal entries?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, I was reading and I should have been reading out loud.
Let me chime in for everyone else.
No, I appreciate it because I'm totally reading and in my brain. So Kara, if you go back to OnPay for a second, I just want to answer this really quickly. If you go over to back into that export, there are opportunities. We added this more recently. So if you've used OnPay in the past, we do show this. We added this, I think, around March 2020 last year, where we added some additional details to show you the date that it's synced over and just kind of like a success message, as I call it. We do try to alert you if there's missing items that would cause the sync not to go through, but the best place to check that the sync went through would be to be here. And then also to go over to the register in QuickBooks. So if we go into QuickBooks and filter by the date, I think is a great way to triple check it. Kara's already pulled up our date here, and we do just only have this transaction in this account, so it's pretty easy to find. But we do warn you if it won't go over because we're missing something, or we do show you that it was successful. And if it wasn't successful for some reason, like I have seen in the past where like QuickBooks was down, right? Everybody has that happen occasionally. If QuickBooks is down at that very moment, it doesn't happen often, but I've seen it where it won't go over because QuickBooks is having an outage. And what our system does is, I call it spins out after 30 minutes of trying to send the information over. It just doesn't go over. And so you don't get the success message. You just see that send button still in OnPay. So then when QuickBooks is back online, you can try to sync it again and it'll go over. You also get an email too that says whether it was successful or unsuccessful. So if you're the person who did sync it, you'll get an email confirming the sync was successful or not successful. So I hope that answers the question.
And hey guys, it's Kathy. I just wanted to butt in on that one. So when you also set up the integration on the QuickBooks side, like it makes that nice connection going on, like it, you know, think of it as feeding the information back and forth. If someone comes in on the QuickBooks side and does something under apps or whatever and disconnects it, that's going to mess up the connection there, and you probably wouldn't get notified. I don't know if you would get notified on the OnPay side, you know, if it's an error that starts with QuickBooks.
It should. We will keep,
okay.
You'll get an ugly error, but
Yeah.
you'll get an error. There'll be like a little red pop-up that says like unable to parse or something like that,
right.
when it's disconnected on that side.
And then the only other thing I have seen in the past is every once in a while, like I don't know if it's specific connections that require this, but it's like you need an annual, hey, you got to reconnect it. That happens to me on Expensify. It's like, it's been a year, you need to reconnect it. you know,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
have that error or something like that. So that would be, you know, the issues on the other side of things, but you would, like you said, I mean, you have these tools to be able to check and see, but I mean, as far as I've been a user, I haven't had an issue with it going over.
If I can add
And
too. Oh yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
Kara, go ahead.
Oh, I was
No,
gonna say
go
what's
ahead.
really nice though is this, let's say worst case scenario, something has changed on QuickBooks side and you have to reconnect, just like we saw when I was toggling between pay types and departments, OnPay is gonna remember whatever the mapping settings were before it was disconnected, if there is something that you need to log back into QuickBooks Online, so you don't have to worry about any mapping being lost that was previously done.
That's nice.
Yeah,
And
and
then,
Kara, while you're
oh,
on that screen, just one thing where it says connected to Green Valley, that is like telling me that the connection's live. So if for some reason we did lose your tokens, maybe QuickBooks cleared everybody's tokens and we lost everyone's connection. I haven't seen that happen with QuickBooks. I've seen it with other GL. That will not say connected. So there is a warning there that'll say, hey, you're disconnected. Please reconnect.
yeah. And then the other thing is when you were showing those exports and you have the send again. So if we do make a mistake, we can delete the journal entry in QBO and then just resend it, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you don't like how it's sent over, or you don't feel
Right.
like it's enough detail, you can make those changes. QuickBooks isn't the easiest thing to delete from, but it's easy to send again from us.
Yeah. You just got to go in and find it. That's all.
Yep, totally.
Oh, Kara, can you go to one little thing for me in
Yeah. In
QuickBooks?
QuickBooks. Yep.
Yeah. If you go to the plus sign and do new,
Yep, right
top
here.
left, and then under other, go to journal entry. On the top left of the screen, there's a little clock. It's going to show you your most recent journal entries. So if you want to go back to one, that's a great way to quickly go and find it.
That's
That
a
is
pro
really
tip.
nifty. Pro
There you
tip
go.
right there. Yeah.
See the journal entry.
I learn something new every time when we do a webinar together, Kathy.
So yeah, when you were saying it was kind of hard to find, I was like, this is my little cheat way to get there.
I love it. Yeah, so this is so going into what Kara's clicked in here, this is a journal entry. She did sync in summary, so I just wanted to show kind of the difference of in summary versus in detail. This is the tax sweep that Kara is showing us right now for that payroll. It has all of the taxes for the different accounts we hit. If you notice, like there's multiple accounts, multiple lines for the same account, it's because the class is different or the location is different. So we'll send all those splits for you so you still get that same amount of detail. And then what you're basically seeing here is that we're incurring those liabilities. And then at the bottom, we are, crediting it out of the account, and just that is the amount that we debited from your account. So when your bank feed comes in, it's going to see that we debited your account for $2,896.02. So it just makes for really easy reconciliation. And then Kara, if you'll close that one, let's go to the other journal entry that we have when we're in detail. And in the splits here, this is just showing us all of those wages. You get one giant journal entry for the entire payroll. It still has a lot of detail. If you select a lot of detail in OnPay, you're going to get a ton of detail in your QuickBooks. Again, we're seeing multiple accounts or the same account being hit multiple times. That's because of those different classes or locations. But what we're seeing is, the expenses being incurred, the liabilities moving over. And then of course, at the bottom, we are hitting your bank account. That amount that we're hitting your bank account for is the total amount of net pay for the pay run. So that is inclusive of direct deposit and any live checks. So just wanted to mention that. And then Kara's going to go through and do something for me real quick. She's going to delete these two transactions so it's not confusing. And we're going to send that same payroll over in detail. And I'll talk about the differences between those two syncs. So Kara's just going in here, making a quick change for us. You can scroll back up for me. Thank you. And it'll take just a second. We are sending over more journal entries than we did before, so it'll take a second or two longer than it did before. And then when this pops in, we're going to see a couple of things. Now, there were 4 employees on the payroll. So I want to point that out because what we're only seeing here is 3 employees on the in hitting the bank account. This is a common thing that comes up for us, that people are like, whoa, none of the direct deposit employees are posted. What happens is, because we're using that direct deposit clearing account, those employees are, they basically have their journal entry is a 0 net pay at the end of it, because we're sending the net pay to the clearing account. And so QuickBooks sees those as like $0 journal entries. So I don't want to say they disappear, they just hit the accounts that they're supposed to hit, and they don't show in the bank register. So you can use Kathy Iconis's amazing tip she just showed us to look for those employees. Or we can also see the employees by going to one of those accounts you hit. I always suggest the Social Security account to find it. That's
I can spell it.
Okay, yeah. If you can spell, if Kara can spell, then we'll find it. But you'll see those employees. So perfect, Kara's got those employees here. And we can see all of the employees. And if you click in, we'll see the splits. And you notice on line 10, there is that direct deposit payable count that she's sending the net pay to. And that's, again, just allowing us to make the debit. If we have 100 employees that have direct deposit, we're not debiting your account 100 times like you would see maybe with a legacy provider. We are hitting your account for 1 debit, or your client's account for 1 debit, and it's a total sum of those direct deposit amounts. And so then the other thing we're seeing, if we go back to the checking count, we're going to be seeing the direct deposit sweep, the tax sweep, and any live checks. So Alicia had a live check, so that is hitting the bank account, so that when she cashes that live check, it's easy to reconcile. And Kara, if you want to just click into the DD sweep so we can kind of see how that looks a little bit at the higher level. Again, this was just the total amount of direct deposit that hit the company bank account, and we were just taking it from the payable account, and we are posting it to that checking account so it matches our transactions. Just want to make it as simple as possible for you guys to reconcile when those bank feeds come in.
Perfect. And Jess, it looks like there is a question. Is there an option where I can assign an employee to 2 different classes? I can tell you that we don't have that option. It is currently limited to 1 employee to 1 class. That designation, it's done directly in OnPay. Let me show you. I think visually it'll help just to see how that's configured. If I were to click on an employee's name in blue and I go to the job tab, that is where location, department or class, and position are assigned. So there's 2 ways that you could really approach this. One way is you run payroll for the hours worked under Department A, run a second payroll for the hours worked under Department B. I can definitely see where that would be cumbersome, though, especially if it's multiple employees that are like that. So that is why earlier, if you're okay with just breaking out the wage expenses this way, you could potentially utilize those custom pay items, and you could call it, I could call this Department A, I could call this hours worked under Department B. I can assign that to 1 employee. And then what I could do instead is I can make sure to map the wage expenses by pay item instead of department. I know that's not exactly what you were looking for. Down the road, we are looking at adding job costing potential to where you're able to allocate, 60% worked under Department A versus 40% under Department B. But it's not available at this time. So that's why there's a few different ways that you could approach that. Would you have anything to add there, Jess?
Yeah. So the only thing also I would add, if it's just 1 employee, like we are working towards that, as Kara mentioned, and it's something that we hope to have in the next not too far off future, I'd like to say. So the other workaround is that if you had to, just 1 or 2 employees needed to do that, you could add a split in the journal entry once it goes into QuickBooks, and then split it that way. Since most of the entries being made for you, if it's just adding a line, that's pretty easy. Again, if it was a lot of employees, then I would say maybe that count's not a good fit for OnPay, or isn't a great fit right now, but keep us in mind in the future. Wink, wink.
Dot.
Yeah.
And you know what? They said 2 employees, so that might be even better. Even create a combo class so that they know to split those. Perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna just say that you could create a class that's like unclassified or to be classified, to be allocated or something like that. And if it is a consistent amount, you might be able to just do a recurring journal entry to split that for you so that it's happening. And then you can just be checking your columns, because I'm assuming with the classes you're trying to get, maybe with a nonprofit or something, split it out into those different columns there, and you're just allocating it out. And so
Brilliant.
Again,
I'm glad we're
another pro
recording this
tip.
for our notes too. This is awesome.
Yeah, I usually like to, like, whenever I have to do some sort of adjustment or check, I like to put things into a bucket so I can run a report at the end of the month or whenever and just say, okay, I have all this information in there, and I can go into those transactions and I'm just like pulling them out. So at the end, my report's empty and I'm like, I did everything I need to do.
Yeah, there you go.
So smart.
That's awesome. Well, I do want to say too, however you're exporting the payroll data, please remember OnPay is paying and filing all federal, state, local payroll taxes, all 50 states. It doesn't cost anything extra for local taxes. It does include our error-free guarantee. And I think we have some time left. Let's go over different user roles, time off accrual policies, really how you can maximize your time with OnPay, how you can also streamline operations for your clients.
Yeah. So when you create an account with OnPay, you do get different levels of user access. I won't go through all of these since we are a little pressed with time. The one thing I did want to point out is the outside collaborator is a newer role for OnPay. So if you are an accountant or bookkeeper, this is likely the role that applies to you. It gives your account your client the option to give you full access to like add other users or run and approve payroll, or if they just want you to be, more in a consultative role that allows them to limit that access. So that's one of our newer roles. And then let's talk about PTO, because I think that is one that is important to employees. It's important to employers. And certainly when you are thinking of switching payroll providers, the best time to update or implement a PTO policy is when you're going to switch providers. Just make it as easy as possible to implement, to track, automate it. It will make your life so much easier. So we do give you tools to create the policies however you need to. Kara, you want to go through quickly how to create a policy in OnPay?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so you can add as many policies as needed, especially for clients with a larger employee count. Maybe they have different policies per department or full-time versus part-time workers. Add in as many as you'd like. What that process looks like is you will add in that custom policy name. You let OnPay know what type of policy is being added, and you have the option to choose between vacation, sick, especially, like there's some states that have counties, cities that have mandated sick leave laws, and then also PTO. Typically, we'll see a separate vacation and sick policy, or we'll see it bundled together under PTO. But again, it's entirely what you or your client have set up. Today, we're going to add in a mock California sick leave. So I'm going to choose sick here. If I have folks across multiple states, I may actually designate this in the policy name as California sick. And then from here, OnPay, in terms of accrual, you are able to choose how you need those hours accrued. Is it per hour worked? Is it a set rate per pay period? Is it one kind of front loading annualized sum? Anytime that we use the term anniversary date, that is a completely programmable field. It doesn't necessarily have to correlate or correspond to that employee's hiring date. So as an example, if we need to shift when they are eligible to begin accruing, maybe it's a 90-day probationary period and then they can start accruing, or they get the front loading sum at that time. That's an example where that anniversary date may be a little bit different. For California, they do have an option for mandated sick leave where it is accrued 1 hour per every 30-hour worked. So we're going to keep it as per hour worked. Let OnPay do the math for us. And then you are able to choose if and when those hours expire. You can have it so that they never expire. They expire on the anniversary date, which would be whatever you would choose. Also, you could have it so that the hours expire on Jan 1. I'm going to keep it right now to hours do not expire, and then navigate on the far right-hand side. Policy setup, OnPay gives you the ability to have multi-tiered policies to maybe award employees that have been with the company longer, more senior workers, maybe we're going to award them at a higher rate of accrual. The options that you see displayed here in the tiers, they are going to change depending on what you chose under select type. So I'm going to change this as an example just to show you. If I adjust this, you'll notice on the far right-hand side, instead of saying per hour, it is intuitively changing it to per year for the verbiage. So if we're doing the math, we have 1 divided by 30. That is to give us a very specific number. All right. And then I'm going to say for the first 12 months up to California in particular, they allow employees to accrue sick leave on their first day of employment. There's some stipulations that go along with that. The employer is only required to let them use 24 hours per year, but they can carry over 48 hours of unused paid sick leave to the next year. I do want to kind of distinguish this part. OnPay doesn't have a specific carryover balance designation. So by that, I mean, if they earn more than 48 hours, I'm not able to tell OnPay, I only want 48 hours to carry over. But what you can do is you can set a balance cap so that at any given time, that employee cannot go over 48 hours and then the hours do not expire. So it will make sure to carry over. So Jessica, please feel free to add if you need to clarify what I just mentioned there, but that's just how you would want to program it into OnPay.
Nope, I think that's a perfect way to explain it. We don't necessarily split that out again. That's kind of a feature upgrade that we're looking at in the future though. So stay tuned. I'm sure Kara will be doing more webinars in the future as things get changed and upgraded with our system. We are always trying to make it better for you guys based on the feedback. So if you have other feedback, definitely let us know. Kara and I love feedback. We take it into our development team and we do try to make the product as easy to use and helpful to you guys as possible.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy because I actually wasn't aware that that was on the roadmap. So I'm like, yes, perfect. All right. Well, just kind of to go over at a really high level, OnPay, we do offer partner perks and benefits. You are able to sign up for a completely free dashboard, and that dashboard does give you free payroll for your firm. There's no client minimum with that either. So even if it's just you, or if you have a small team, you are able to pay yourselves through OnPay completely free, and you aren't obligated to bring on clients later. You have the option, if you do bring on clients, you can choose between a revenue share, a discount. You also get a free test environment. I am someone, I don't know what questions I have until I play around and I test something, run mock payrolls. So we do also give you a free test company, similar to my demo account, that you're able to train yourself on OnPay and just familiarize yourself with our platform. And
Hey,
each
Kara?
of your accounts. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry.
So no, don't apologize. I'm butting in. So I had a quick question about, the demo company. Does it reset or anything? So if you do something in there, does it all disappear when you log in again, or how does that work?
Oh no, it's like an actual real environment, except when you run payroll, the payroll just isn't going anywhere. We're not
Right.
reporting anything. So it will remember whatever was keyed in last time.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Cause I know like with QuickBooks, they have a demo account, but it resets every time you log in. So you can't really save
it really?
exactly what, yeah.
Oh,
I'm
that's
working on a practice set right now and it's difficult. So
to reinvent
yes,
the wheel each time. Yeah.
yes, but I think Xero will actually do something where it'll save your progress in that demo account. So that's awesome that you do that.
And I will say too, since you mentioned Xero, we are definitely focusing on QuickBooks given the name of this group, but we also do interface with Xero as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm glad you chimed in. And also too, I want to say, the perks and benefits when you do add more clients to OnPay, this is what that tiered level of discount opportunities would look like. We've got options for partner badges, co-branding opportunities. Really what I want you to take away from this is feel free to email us, partners@onpay.com. We do have a specific link for QBOchat, onpay.com/QBOchat. So we'll make sure that's included in any email communication afterwards. But I want to see, are there any questions that we can answer for you all today? If there's something we made more confusing or have to hop back into OnPay, let us know in that Q&A panel.
Yeah, we can give it a minute. No one's freaking out exactly at the 1 o'clock mark.
I know. I always say I feel like someone's furiously typing and I don't want to cut them off while they're typing.
Isn't that the worst?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for like going through all of this. It's been awesome. So you did say you integrate with Xero. Is it a similar kind of lookup on the mapping?
It
It
is.
is.
Oh,
Yep, sorry,
did we say that
Kara.
at the same time?
We did,
I
because
love
we
it.
basically share a brain.
Go on.
Yeah, so it looks very similar. So if we did use Xero or QuickBooks as an example today, our desktop integration looks similar. Couple of different nuances there. We have help articles to help you through the differences there. Xero is actually extremely similar because they are both API based integrations. They map similarly.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're getting some love from some people about how awesome you guys
I know, I'm
are.
blushing actually. I don't know how to respond, but thank you, anonymous attendee, for writing that.
Well, I
Nice.
mean, I have to say, you guys practice this and you have this down to an art. You're amazing. So
Yeah, we learned a lot about
Kara's a pro.
QuickBooks today too. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone. It is, I will say, Kathy, I know I introduced you to the concept today, but happy Friday Eve, everyone.
yes, doesn't make it sound so much better. Friday
much
Eve.
better.
Yes. Well, I hope everyone enjoys their Friday Eve and Friday, and you should get an email tomorrow with yeah, I think a link to the video. I'm going to have the video up on the website too, so you can watch it whenever you want. And that's all I've got for today. So thank you so much, Kara and Jessica, for your time today. It's been amazing.
Thanks,
Here,
Kathy.
have a good one, everyone. Thank you.
You guys have a great one. Bye.